One of the best things about the technology that we have nowadays is that it allows us to immerse ourselves into different worlds from the comfort of our own seat in our own homes. And this technology that lets us immerse ourselves, this immersion that we get from using technology, often might have more downsides than it does upsides. Because if you spend too much time in a fantasy world, in a place that's outside of reality, I find, then you end up screwing your actual self over. The guy who lives in reality, the guy who has to deal with all of the bothersome circumstances of the real world. And one of those I find is people. People are probably like the biggest ones out there. So what this video is going to talk about is how gaming worsened my social anxiety due to the simple fact that I was gaming, due to the simple fact that I was immersing myself into this imaginary world for hours on end and kind of like not coming up for air at all. And I'm also going to cover why balance isn't really necessarily the right answer to this, especially if you're trying to maximize your potential to be a sociable person or even just like a functioning, competent person in reality at that. I'm going to talk about why gaming for an hour a day isn't necessarily a good idea and how you should seek to totally eradicate video games from your lives like I did and actually worked for me super well instead of just trying to balance it, which I found that I couldn't even maintain or even become super good at anything at, because let's be honest, trying to balance video games, at least for me, with actually doing stuff in real life is kind of like, it made me respect myself less because I knew that I had the willpower to quit video games. I tried doing it before and I've been largely successful, but when I tried to balance this bad habit that had totally screwed me over, had given me social anxiety, had made me nervous around people, had made me waste hours of my life, had destroyed my self-image, when I resolved to only play 1 hour of this thing that had destroyed my life so far every day, it's like agreeing to spend 1 hour a week with like a serial killer, almost, with somebody who murdered your family almost. It's like trying to spend an hour a day around this terrible, terrible thing that has done nothing but damage to you, but seemed fun and entertaining at first. Obviously, saying that it's like a serial killer is using a very, very extreme example. But what I'm trying to say is that why would I spend, at that matter, an hour per day around this thing that's destroyed me, around this thing that almost brought me to my knees in addiction and degeneracy and depravity? So that's my argument for quitting video games entirely instead of just trying to find balance and do them for 1 hour a day. Because it never really is 1 hour a day, if we can be totally honest with ourselves. I used to tell myself it would just be 1 hour when I got home from school, but that turned into 2 hours, which turned into 3 hours because this thing draws you in. It's easy to just go with like the slippery slope that is playing video games for more than the time that you set for yourself, because video games are so addictive because they draw you in. They always make you say one more game, 5 more minutes, just giving you a little bit more time to do this and that, and you're bargaining with yourself. And when you bargain with yourself, I find, when I was bargaining with myself to just play one more game, I respected myself less because I just kept going on to another game and another game and another game, and I would win this game. And then it would finally be time to get off, but I found a really good opponent, and he's really easy to beat. This guy, I'm going to grind so much XP off of him. So I play another game. And then I also win that one. And obviously, I got to play this guy for a best out of 5, so I go for a third game, just so I can win one more. And then I lose that one pretty badly, and then this guy like taunts me or something in game, and then I say, well, now I gotta beat him again because I'm pissed off at this guy because he beat me, right? And then I have to go at it again, and before you know it, it's been like another hour, and I'm still trying to beat these random people online who I've never even met, and who are probably honestly pretty nice people in real life, but this toxicity that permeates online gaming culture, because for most video games, they're competitive. They are only really fun, I find, if you win them, right? And maybe that's just my personality. Maybe you can relate to that, but I'm really having fun at something if I'm winning, if I'm doing well at it, or if at least I'm improving like very, very rapidly. If I'm not competent and I'm not like constantly improving in whatever I'm doing, I'm not having fun with it, right? So if I wasn't winning, or at least like learning many, many new strategies and combos in these different fighting games that I was playing all the time, then I probably never would have, I wouldn't have enjoyed myself. In fact, that was the case most of the time, where I wasn't enjoying myself. It was just my ego keeping me going. It was me against me, and I was beating myself up because I couldn't beat these people who I thought were below me for some reason, even though we were all just on the same server, wasting our lives away playing this game. So, yeah, video games took away a lot of the, not the respect, but kind of like the regard that I held people in. I think online competitive gaming, if you've ever played like a mass multiplayer online shooter or anything like that, I think online gaming, when it's competitive, often brings out the worst in people, especially young men, because we're so aggressive, we're so oriented towards winning. We have all these different capabilities of adults, but we haven't really learned to master our urges to lash out in anger, to get mad, to throw a fit, right? And online gaming attracts no other demographic like it does young, competitive young men, right? Who have so much potential besides that. Like that's a separate point, but like if you're a young guy who plays video games and you get mad at the screen every time you lose, and you're always looking up new strategies and guides online, and you're always trying to like grind for XP, and that's like all you're thinking about around the clock. Imagine if you quit video games cold turkey and devoted that to learning a martial art, or starting your own business, or trying to learn all you can about a certain subject, just trying to reach mastery in like one thing. Imagine how far you could get in that. Imagine how much of a positive impact you can make on the world. But instead, you're sat here devoting all of your zest and your life force and your effort towards this game that probably won't even be like available to play in 5 years, right? Like best case scenario, you become like the best in the world at this. You get like a sponsorship, maybe you make some money on the side, you become like a millionaire with a mansion, and now you can play your little video games on your 4K plasma TV because you work for FaZe Clan or something. And that's your ideal lifestyle. Just doing the exact same thing you're doing now, but just doing it better. It's still just as meaningless. It's still just as much of a waste of time. It's still just as bad for your mental health, but you just want to get better at it. I think I'm going to make an actionable step for this video. So if you're watching this, you might want to pause and say, or write down this prompt. Go ahead and ask yourself, if you are watching this video and you play video games, ask yourself, what are these games doing for me? What is the cost-benefit analysis of playing these games? Cost-benefit analysis is basically this thing where you look at how much effort, attention, resources you're putting into something versus how much you're getting back from it. This could be like money, material, confidence, anything like that. So look at how much you're putting into your gaming every day. Like how much effort, like a rough percentage. How much time? How many like minutes and hours and that kind of stuff. And then look at what you're gaining from it. You're gaining some pixels on a screen, some arbitrary numbers on your profile on your game that mean nothing when you shut off the game. Maybe you're getting a very, very shallow sense of validation or confidence whenever you win a game. So there's like some serotonin in that, I guess, which could like momentarily boost your mood, but you're going to need more. There's some dopamine as well, which feels good in the moment, but just goes away quickly and resets your baseline so that you need like even more at a later time. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, there's no like transferable skills that you could possibly be learning by just playing Fortnite or Rocket League online. So yeah, just do that, and then when you come out with what you're putting into it versus what you're getting out of it, ask yourself, if I wasn't emotionally attached to video games and I was looking at someone else's addiction and I saw this graph of how much they were putting in versus how little they were getting back and how much this habit was damaging them, then would I say it's a good idea for them to continue with this addiction that's ruining them, that's grabbing hold of them, that's destroying your soul? Just ask yourself about that for a couple minutes, and if you come out with a resolve that this is something you might want to change about yourself, this addiction, then you're in the right place, and I'd encourage you to keep watching. And by the way, if you're interested in quitting video games for good and you've been watching this channel, then you might want to check out my course. The link to it is in the description. It's about 2.5 hours of content with all of my expertise and all of my guidance that's going to guide you step by step through how to quit video games for good. And I'm confident it'll help you if you're anything like me and can relate to my content on this channel. So yeah, gaming ruined my social life, like in person as well. Because not only is online gaming culture incredibly toxic and basically makes you see other people as basically like non-human, as basically just like these little spores, these little spurgs that are just trying to like manipulate their characters so that they can beat you and give a bad day. That's always how I thought about it. That like my opponents aren't really human. They're just like some losers sitting in their mom's basement who are trying to like beat me at this thing. And if I beat them, then I'm worthless. So yeah, that's the perception I got of people from gaming. So when I would turn off the game and go to a family gathering or go to school or do some other social thing in real life, then I would always kind of focus on my own conduct in front of people. So I never really tried to connect to others. Let me explain what this means. So when I transport myself, like I was talking about before, when I transport myself personally into this separate reality that is gaming, then I'm only focusing on my actions, right? And I'm focusing on how to react to these other moving characters' actions as well, right? That's how a game works. So I was always focused in real life as well upon how I felt about people, around how my experience was going, around how I was acting, how I was conducting myself, around whether I looked stupid, around whether my voice sounded like I was like I hadn't hit puberty yet. Yeah, stuff like that. So because of that, I was too focused on myself and my own presenting of myself, to the point where I never really got to connect with anyone because I was just too much inside my own head. I was psyching myself out because I was using this old video game strategy that I'd always used, where I was focusing on my own actions and I was looking for reactions from other people. I was basically in fight or flight mode, you could say, in video games, and that fight or flight mode basically just carried into social interaction with other people. Very, very, very weird time in my life, and I basically lost my entire... I basically just like lost my faith in humanity in kind of like a subconscious psychological kind of way, where I'm not even like giving people in person the time of day. I'm not talking to them. I'm ignoring them. I'm like intentionally like looking at a wall or something whenever I'm talking to them. Like if I was like talking to you at this point in my life where I had like extreme social anxiety, if you came up to me and asked me how I was doing, I would just look at the wall and say, I'm okay. How are you? Something like that. Like, it's just not very charming, if you know what I mean. It's not how anyone would actually want to present themselves socially, because like you don't seem very open to conversation. You don't seem very desirable for someone to make friends with. So yeah, I just kept doing that, and eventually I got tired of it, and I resolved to quit video games. And I was ultimately successful, and my life worked out for the better, but I'll get to that later. So yeah, gaming, like I said, taught me to focus on the internal, and I was basically just too afraid to reach out to other people because I had this deep subconscious assumption from gaming that everyone basically sucked and everyone was basically going to like make fun of me if I ever made a mistake, just like I did in video games. If I ever made a mistake when I was playing those fighting games or those shooting games online, people would taunt me on voice chat, people would taunt me in the chat, I would taunt them if they made a mistake. It was just like this basically like petty back and forth fight all the time on these shooting games where you have like grown ass men and teenage boys basically just calling each other swear words because they messed up in this virtual game that they attached their status and their self-worth to. Totally pathetic, if you ask me. And it's something that, once I realized it, I wanted to quit it very, very bad. Because I basically didn't have enough respect left for myself. Or I had too much respect still left for myself in order to continue with this kind of lifestyle. So I ultimately decided to quit. So, once I did quit, it gave me an extreme sort of peace of mind. I reached a level of presence and like mental clarity and quietness that I never really before thought possible. Because when you're playing gaming, you never really have this incentive to just slow down, to just take a couple of deep breaths and take time to appreciate the people around you and take time to appreciate yourself and the little quirks about yourself. You're taught to, I think, when you're playing these online games that are competitive. So notice that I'm not calling out all video games in this. Certainly other video games, especially more modern ones that don't focus on online competition, are going to be bad for you. But I'm specifically talking about online gaming, competitive gaming in this video. So when you are playing online competitive video games, you have no incentive just to, practice presence, practice gratitude. Both of which are going to help you basically achieve more happiness throughout your day when you practice them, right? Video games tell you to constantly be distracted with strategy, with thinking about your next gaming session, with thinking about this guy that you comboed in the game and he was really toxic and he was taunting you and he was like, teabagging you, whatever, and then you sniped him or you comboed him 0 to death and you just like completely annihilated him and then he left. He never showed his face again in your arena. Stuff like that. It makes you villainize people who are worse than you at something. Or villainize people who are better than you, for that matter. So, when I finally went cold turkey from video games, when I quit for 10, 25, 30, 50, 75, 100 days, I started to see significant progress in just like how present and clear my mind was becoming, how much easier I could think about other things, other more pleasant things than just annihilating other guys in video games, other than just beating other people and validating my own ego and just stroking my own ego and proving how good I was at some arbitrary game that I wanted to beat everyone at, and that I would basically throw like a hissy fit if I didn't beat people at. I spiked multiple controllers in my day, by the way. Maybe you can relate to that. If I lost a game, there was a time where I'd often just dunk my controller on the ground. I was pretty out of control. But give it another year and I'm basically on the entirely different side of the fence. I can talk to people, I can hold eye contact with like a completely unashamed kind of aura about me, right? And I can be totally and completely honest with people during conversation. And I can give them practical advice, and I can show them true and authentic love that comes out of here, right? Which sounds totally cheesy, like this sounds totally Disney, but I recommend you try it, or at least try to get to this state and see how you like it. If you are like me and you've played video games for years, you've had this addiction that's grabbed hold of you for years and years and years, I recommend you try this. I recommend you see just how deep and rich and fulfilling your relationships with other people can be once you finally quit your gaming addiction, once you finally realize that there's more to life than just what's behind the screen. And if I can get you to set a goal to do that right now, and to resolve to quit your gaming addiction because you know that it's doing you so much harm and it's causing you so much anxiety, it's basically traumatizing you well into your teenage years, then I consider this video and my channel and my mission as a success. So yeah, advantages of quitting gaming in a nutshell: mental clarity, gratitude, presence, kind of like a quietness of mind, self-image. I actually love myself right now. I really appreciate what I've done for myself, and even when I occasionally mess up on bad habits and start to kind of hurt myself in certain ways, then I always return to this great gratitude for myself, because I know that 80% of the time, 90% of the time, I'm doing the right thing. So I appreciate myself, right? And if you want to start to appreciate others and start to give your, this sounds very spiritual, but give your inner unique gift to others, whatever that may be, whatever you're talented at. If you want to start serving people with that gift that you're given, then you must learn to be present. You must learn to practice real love and gratitude. Like, quitting video games right now might help you find a really great group of guys to be friends with, who you can be open and honest with, and who you can talk about anything with. And it'll also help you find your future wife, who you can be present with and show your love, and who you've specifically picked out to be your partner for the rest of your life. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I'm on the journey. I'm on the way to doing that. And if I could help you do that as well, if I can help you get up to where I am now from your current addiction, then yeah, that'd be awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you enjoyed what you saw here. If you did, please consider liking, subscribing, giving some comments about how much you appreciate this video, what you learned, what you would like me to talk about, what issues you'd like me to cover. Leave that all in the comments. It really boosts these kind of videos on the algorithm, so we can get to even more people about the good message of quitting gaming and taking responsibility for ourselves. So yeah, I'll see you later.